All right, great. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Freshman Focus with Futurology. This is Anthony Russamano, and we'll be talking tonight about your freshman year, your timeline, and some common mistakes, and hopefully we'll give you some insight into the process. We'll do a little housekeeping. Somebody's already asking, it's great, and using the chat function. Will this presentation be available as a PowerPoint or notes in some format? Yes, when I send a follow-up, I'll send the recording as well as the PowerPoint so you can have that afterwards. So that's part of the housekeeping for tonight. For those you do not know, my name is Anthony Russamano. I'm the coordinator for college and career for CUSD. For those that do not know Futurology, we are a free service for the district. We're not at the school sites, we're outside the school sites, and we have two counselors and myself, and we help students through college and career counseling, and we actually have appointments and we have workshops such as this. So hopefully you'll hear more about us over your years at your high schools. Okay, so again, welcome. I will be recording this and I will send this out. Also, all of our recordings, and I'll show you later, are on our website from our webinar, so you can watch something back if you missed something and you didn't get the note, so don't fret about that. And again, this tonight is going to be probably about an hour long. Okay, so let me take you through some basic housekeeping stuff. As I mentioned, our programs with counseling services that we hold in the mall for our freshmen. You'll be eligible to have one-on-one appointments from January through May. We're in the evenings at the mall at the Shops of Mission Viejo from 3:30 to 9. And then we do these web-based group workshops. You also might find us at your high schools doing some workshops. We're doing a lot of senior stuff right now, filling out applications. And there's our website down there at the bottom at CUSD-Futureology.org. And to find all our events and register like you did for tonight, you go to appointments-events. Okay. So the housekeeping, somebody already used the chat function. If you guys have comments tonight about anything, please put it in the comment or the chat area. But for questions, if you have a specific question, it'd be great if there's a Q&A in the upper left that you can click on that and put your question in there. It allows me to be able to click off that I've actually answered your question, and then I can keep a running tab afterwards about all the questions that came in. So that's some basic housekeeping. Here's the agenda for tonight. We'll talk about college and give you an overview. We'll talk about some common mistakes freshmen will make. We'll talk about your timeline and some recommendations I have for you, and then we'll wrap up within the hour. Okay, so that's the agenda for tonight. Nothing complex. Now, you might have some freshman orientation nights at your school. I'm going to come from a little different angle at some time, but again, all in all, we are the same service, the same program within the district. Okay. All right, so we're also going to do some polling tonight, and I'll get to that in a second. So here's the magic 8-ball. Will I get into a good college? That a lot of people just ask me that straight off the bat, and I don't know their son or daughter or anything like that. Will I get into a good college? So with our magic 8-ball, we're going to ask. So we're going to do the first poll of the night, and then we're going to do a second poll. But the first poll is going to be just basically how familiar are you with the college and career process. So there's going to poll that I'm going to launch. It's going to pop up on the screen. And all I have to do is click the button of if you feel familiar, how familiar do you feel with that process. So here's the first poll of the night. And if you can just click on if you feel very familiar or not at all familiar with the college and career process and navigating that. Okay. And the answer is anonymous. I don't know who you are and how you're answering it, but I just want to get a sense of my room and where you are in this whole process. And I know you're just starting school because you're freshmen. If you're sophomores, you guys shouldn't be here, but that's okay if you are. My juniors and seniors should definitely not be here. Okay, so it looks like most of the room is not at all familiar or somewhat familiar. So not many people are very familiar with that, and that's good to know. Okay. All right, I'm going to share some of the results so you guys can kind of see. So most people are not at all familiar, which is not a problem. And now I'm going to do the next one. So this ties into will I get into a good college? And I'm going to post the second poll here. What is the average college admissions rate? So there are your answers, your possible choices. So those who are very familiar, they might know the answer. Some of you might not. The average college admissions rate. So think about the schools that are out there and what you hear. And I'll give you a few minutes. And what I'm going to start doing again, we're just going to do a college overview. I'm going to give you some insight into the process, and then we'll get into talking about things you can do or what to be aware of your freshman year, so you guys can stay engaged and kind of know what you're doing and keeping on the right timeline and the right track. All right, we have most people have voted, so I'm going to share what people are thinking. Most people picked 30%, and most nobody picked 50 or 65. So let's talk about that a little bit, okay? Well, the answer actually is, and this is like an SAT, it's a multiple choice test. Interesting enough, and you don't hear a lot of this, but it's never been easier to get into college than it is now. Okay, and I'm going to stay and pause on that for a second, because a lot of people put 10% acceptance rate. Well, that doesn't mean it would be easy to get into. So if it's never been easier to get into college, and we go back, you're probably looking at, well, if it's pretty easy to get into college, well, then the answer is probably going to be the highest percentage to get into college. And it's 65%. That's the average admissions rate, okay? So it's never been easier to get into college, which is kind of weird. The outlook is good. Our magic 8-ball, no doubt about it, you're going to get into a good college. Outlook is very good. So for my parents who are here, my freshmen are here, if you've heard a lot of negative noise about this process, I'll talk about some of the reasons why there is that noise. But all in all, when we look at it, there are thousands of schools out there, and most of them accept most of the people, okay? And you might not believe that. So I'm going to show you some stats, some state of the nation. So the average admission rate is actually 65.8%. So if we look in this blue area down in my little, in this area here, that's colleges accepting at least half of their applicants. Look how many there are. There's a ton of them. Amazing. Only 19.7% admit under 50%. Okay. That's not a bit. That's not a lot. That's that yellow bar right there. So when we talk about these schools, I mean, most of the negative noise are about like, well, I didn't get into UCLA. Well, most people don't get into UCLA. Over 130,000 applicants every year, and they're not accepting that many people. Of course, you're going to hear a lot of negative noise about not getting into college. It's because a lot of people are applying there. You have to part of the process, and over the next 3 to 4 years, working with your schools, with your counselors, advisors, and with Futureology, we're going to help you come up with a really good college list. So you're just not picking schools that you're not going to get into. And that's why there's a mistake of a lot of students is they're picking schools that they shouldn't even be applying to. And that's why they're not getting in. That's part of it. Only 6% admit less than a third. Okay, and there's only 14 colleges that are under 10%, such as the Stanfords of the world or the Princetons of the world, those Ivy League schools and the upper echelon of those schools. And most people don't get into. A lot of valedictorians don't get into those schools, okay? So again, one thing when we're talking about the college overview, you don't have to invent something or write a book to get into college. A lot of people think, oh, I have to do something extraordinary. I mean, it's great if you do, but it doesn't mean that. And the other thing about tonight, guys, I want to make sure you participate. If you have some questions, please, again, put those in the Q&A, and I'll stop and I'll try to answer your questions. So right now, I'm just trying to paint the picture of college admissions. And the good news are there's thousands of schools that you can get into when you didn't realize it. So we'll talk about that along the way, okay? So that's kind of the overview, the state of the nation. And I usually like to say there's a college to fit just about everyone, okay? And just because you didn't hear about the school doesn't mean it's not a good fit. And it's expanding our horizons in terms of how we look at the schools, all right? So here's some of the common mistakes that freshmen make, and we're going to try to avoid those, okay? So we'll talk about those, and again, you can ask questions about it. So the first one is freshman year really doesn't count. I can improve my grades later. And a lot of people say that, and it is a mistake. A lot of people say that because a lot of schools, they look at your 10th and 11th grades mainly when they're calculating your GPA. So you go, well, I don't have to do well freshman year. And that's just a myth about that, okay? First of all, you want to make sure you're trending upwards. But if you slack off your first year, you're going to have a tough time catching up and also advancing in some of the other more challenging courses, especially if you want to go to a more competitive school. So your grades, your freshman grades, are still going to count towards your overall GPA, number one. And number two, like I said, it's playing catch up is really hard to do. So build a strong foundation this first year. There's nothing more important in college admissions than getting good grades. So if you can do that, and it doesn't mean you have to get straight A's to go to a good school. Like I said, most schools accept most people. If you just do decent and manage, and that's what you can manage because you're doing other things, or maybe school's not your thing, you can still go to college. Okay, so that's the good thing. But you should still challenge yourself in different ways. You know, how do you like to learn? But again, focus on your grades this year. It puts you on the right track for the rest of high schools. Okay, so please do that at your high schools. If you're having some difficulty, obviously reach out to your counselor, your advisor. They're going to help you. You know, and then also choose some electives that are going to help you find your interest. Okay, and then working with your schools, finding out what colleges require, what kind of courses are required. So we'll talk about that in a bit. The second one, some activities like leadership and community service look better than others on college applications. Again, another myth. Somebody says, well, I need to be the president of this club, or I need to do volunteer work. And it's not the case. Well, maybe, just maybe, you have to work for your family. That's just what you have to do to just afford things in life. That's okay. They're not going to look down on you because you worked 30 hours a week and you didn't do any community service. Again, they're not going to look at that. It doesn't mean you have to take on activities like that or take on positions like that. You have to do it in your own way. And we'll talk a little bit more in a minute. So again, don't think that that is the case. The third one is the quest to be well-rounded right here. I fell for this one, by the way, when I was in high school. And I thought that. So I joined every club I could. I was in the physics club, the Spanish club. I joined student government. I was in sports. I was in everything because I wanted to be well-rounded. Well, that is, despite what you might hear or you're constantly told, you know, Harvard colleges, Stanford, Harvard, the UCs, Oberlin, any of the schools that we're going to name, they don't want well-rounded students, okay? They want a well-rounded student body, and that's a little different than well-rounded students. It's not that they don't want students who are good at things, but they want pointy students, okay? So let's talk about that. So should you join 10 clubs that you only attend once or twice a year, or should you join 2 and go to every meeting and practice and eventually take on a leadership role? Where are you on this? Now, I kind of mentioned it briefly. I used to be, or I used to think that it was the top one, join 10 clubs, but it's really about quality over quantity. Okay. Now, there's no magic number that you have to join 3 clubs or 5 clubs or just 1 club, but it's about quality over quantity, and that's really huge. Okay. That's the first thing. Be pointy or angular, and what I mean by that is when you're angular, you're expressing a uniqueness or an excellent in 1 or 2 things. That's what angular is, and that's something that they're looking for. What are you really good at? What are your interests? And it doesn't mean you're going to have 50 interests, but what are your 2 or 3 interests and what you do very well? Okay, so really make sure you're finding this. So for my freshmen, it's really early on. You might try a lot of things now because you're trying to find that interest, which it's okay. But by the time you're a sophomore and junior, you should be finding those 2 or 3 things for sure that you really love, that you like, that make you feel like you, that you're expressing yourself and what you do well. That's really important. As opposed to, I know some juniors and seniors now that are joining things because application seasons are around, and they're joining things, a bunch of things now to just put it on their application, and they're just doing it for the application. And that doesn't look good, that you join it so late and that, you know, most admissions officers kind of know that you're doing that. So again, don't fall for that trap. So it can hurt your chances when you're doing too many things. So less is more in this instance, okay? And doesn't mean like I'm only going to do 1 thing. Well, if you can handle 2 things and you like 2 things, then do 2 things. It's going to be very individualistic here, okay? All right, so that's talking about these experiences that you're having in your activities. Again, you're just starting out. Now, some of you have done things since 7th and 8th grade and everything. Some of those might carry over into high school, which is fine. It can even be a hobby as well. You can have a hobby. Maybe you like to read comic books and you do that quite often, and you do something more than that. Well, maybe that leads into an activity. But they're looking for experiences. It doesn't mean you have to be the president of the club, but it's going to demonstrate your commitment, your passion, your maturity, and leadership. And leadership, it can be introduced in many different ways, okay? And that's how you talk about it. So again, that's a common mistake that we see from a lot of students, okay? Again, if you have some questions about anything I'm bringing up, feel free to ask. For a lot of you, it's just going to be an introduction to some of this information, so you might need to chew on it a bit or let it resonate and then kind of see where you go from here. And again, Futurology is here. Your counselors and advisors are there, so you can ask us any of these types of questions when we're talking about it, okay? All right, let's move on here. Another mistake is that, and we're not in the testing season for you freshmen yet, a lot of the juniors are, but you might hear this a lot. I'm gonna take the SAT and ACT multiple times, okay? That's a big mistake, okay? Because colleges will accept either the SAT or the ACT. So what's going to be recommended by me is to take the one that you're actually going to score better on, okay? You don't have a lot of time and a lot of resources to do both, okay? So when you hit junior year, you should have already made that decision. So I'm getting you guys early. So everybody attending tonight, I don't want anyone to fall into that trap where you're doing both tests for real. Now you should take both tests. Now you're going to do the PSAT, guys, October 11th at your school. So I want you to take that. That's your opportunity this year, and as a sophomore, to take the SAT. That's a practice SAT, pretty much, the PSAT. Okay. Oh, I have a question coming in. All right, does marching band count activities or leadership? Yeah, marching band counts as an activity, and again, depending on how much you do it, how much you love it, etc., it definitely counts. Now, also within marching band, it depends on what you do and what kind of roles you take and how involved you are. So for sure, it's a great activity. It's going to count. Now, if you end up not liking it, then you might want to consider dropping it and trying something else. But now's the time to experiment. Okay. Somebody's asking, can you take the PSAT multiple times? Well, you're actually going to within the school district. So my freshmen, you're going to take it October 11th. Next year, as sophomores, you're going to take it again. So you can actually take it multiple times through the school. You're going to take the PSAT 8-9 this year. Next year, you're going to take the regular PSAT. So yes, you're going to take it multiple times. You're only going to take it in October of every year. So you do that and do nothing else. You don't need to prepare for it. You just go in and take it. And when you do that, okay, somebody's raising their hand. If you are, please ask me a question. But again, once you take the PSAT, you'll have an understanding of what the SAT is like. The next step will be take a practice ACT. And so you can see how you score. So again, PSAT every October through the school, all the way through junior year. You're going to do that. It's through the school, and right now it doesn't cost you anything. Second step for you guys is taking a practice ACT by the spring of your sophomore year. So you're really going to do nothing except the PSAT this year in October. You don't need to do any other testing this year or prepping for a standardized test like the SAT, PSAT, or ACT. You don't need to do that, okay? You'll do something next spring of sophomore year. You'll take the PSAT to fall of your sophomore year. Okay, guys? All right, and then again, when the time of your sophomore year, at the end of it, you'll compare your scores and choose which one you're better suited for. So you'll hear more about this, and you'll see more Futurology talking about it, and your school's talking about it. But for right now, there's nothing else besides taking the PSAT this fall, okay? Do you need to sign up or is it automatic? Great question, Megan. You need to, I think the schools are signing you up, but again, I would double check with your school. They should have sent something out to you. I'm not involved in the sign up of it. They should have sent you a letter or information about taking the PSAT on October 11th. So I think it depends on your school. But I would go into your advisors or guidance and check in. I don't know who's handling that at your school, in terms of who is going to be different probably from every school. But you sign up through your school or just let them know you're attending. So I don't know the process at each school, unfortunately. Okay, so that's another mistake, all right? So again, we want to avoid some of these mistakes. Now, some of you might still make them, and you can turn back. It's not like if you did the ACT, it's the end of the world. I just think time, money, resources, you just don't, it's not a good and wise thing to do. And that's why I'm telling you early. Okay, here's another mistake. If you've ever heard of this, called brand name-itis, okay? It's a curable disease, but it is a disease, and people think that to be successful, you must attend a prestigious college, okay? You hear this quite often. I have to go to this particular school. Got to go to Berkeley or bust. But that's not the case, guys. So one of the things we want to talk about is your value. You get your value, okay, from a bunch of different things. Okay, it's not just if you go to this top school. Yes, it feels good, like, oh, you can associate yourself. I know parents like getting their bumper sticker from that particular school, and people know what that school is, but it doesn't come from necessarily what you learn in college. It comes from your ability to learn new things, as the world is always constantly changing. And you can do that at any college, okay? Um, and just because you go to good school doesn't mean, it's setting you up for medical school, law school or something, okay? There's other factors that go into it, okay? Also, if you look at the chief executives of top 100 companies, you're going to find that they've gone to many different schools. So here's a list of some people that you might know that are worth a lot. It says net worth. I don't know what that means, but net worth is a lot. So, for example, where did Bill Gates go to college? If anybody wants to chat that in, please do. If anybody can name somebody where they went to college on this list, like Mark Cuban, who's the owner of the Dallas Mavericks or something. Oprah, I didn't put her company because she's got so many. Where did they go to college? Can anybody name that for me? And if you can, throw it in the chat area, okay? And I put the first letter of the college here to help you out if you didn't know. Now, obviously, because I'm talking about brand name-itis, none of these schools are going to really be, like, S isn't going to be Stanford, okay, because that's pretty well known. Oh, Bill Gates to Dartmouth, okay? So again, you're falling for that. Like, that's what you think, right? Nope, not Dartmouth. Bill Gates, Harvard, good guess, but no, not even close. All right, well, Bill Gates was a dropout. Warren Buffett went to Nebraska. Oprah went to Tennessee State. So I mean, a lot of these schools, I put these up for a reason, to show you that a lot of these schools you probably just haven't heard of. Like Mark Cuban went to Indiana. A lot of you probably heard of it, but it's not known like a Harvard is known. But Indiana has a fantastic business program. Okay, amazing business program. So J.W. Marriott with the Weber College. I mean, so again, the point of this is that, guys, you don't have to go to a prestigious college to be influential, to make a name for yourself. The two major factors that influence income when you're talking about going to college, one is your undergraduate major. There's some majors that when you get out, you're going to make more money, whether you're in your computer science or engineering. And if and where you attend graduate school is going to make a difference as well. So if you're planning on going to graduate school, your undergrad typically is not going to make a difference. So if you're going to go to law school, your undergrad, you just have to do well there and take the LSAT and go on to law school. So that's going to make a difference. All right, I got a question here about the PSAT. What score makes you qualify for National Merit Scholarships? Well, first of all, Henry, National Merit only applies for juniors, so you have to be a junior, so 2 years from now. And the number this year was about 223, but that might not make sense to you. So, but I don't want to spend time explaining how the PSAT scored, but it's pretty high, but less than 1% or 0.5% of the country fall into that category. We had actually a handful of people that are semifinalists in our district. Last year we had about 14. I don't know the number yet this year, but that's semifinalists. It doesn't even make you a winner. So again, the number is quite high. You'll know after your freshman or sophomore year if you're even close in the ballpark, okay? All right. Oh, somebody, Walton went to Missouri. Yes, excellent. Thanks, Megan. Yes, Sam Walton went to Missouri. Mizzou, the Mizzou Tigers. Excellent. Thank you. All right, good. You're paying attention. All right, guys, moving on. Some other mistakes here. Common mistake number 6, core values just ahead. So if you don't know what you're looking for, you will find it. Oh, there's a little thing missed off of here. Or you'll never find it. It's supposed to say, if you don't know what you're looking for, you'll never find it. Well, you need to find yourself, guys. You really do. So part of this mistake is too many of my juniors and seniors that I see, and so again, I love that I'm having freshmen here, is they don't understand their self enough. You need to become what I call a self-expert, okay? And it's on you guys to find out what you're looking for, okay? And that's part of going through this process of what you're interested in, finding what you love to learn. You need to develop a framework that helps you figure out what you want. And that framework, and I'm going to give you some clue into that, creating that framework. And this is some things we help our students do at Futurology is kind of getting to know yourself better, analyzing some of the aptitude surveys to help put into practice, oh, I'm interested in this, or this is who I am, what might I be good at, or what could I potentially do, and finding careers or jobs that might fit that framework, okay? So the first thing is your strengths, your unique strengths. A lot of people thank us for that. Okay, so think about that. What are my strengths? What are your values? And when we talk about values, you know, I have a value of family. You know, that's why I love working for this district. Is it's really about family. That helps you make your decisions in life. If you have certain values and about integrity, well, then you're going to have some difficulty working for a company that is pretty shady. You know, that just won't sit well with you. You'll probably have ulcers when you're going to work. So, so you know, when we talk about your values, what's your soul made of? What's inside? Find and dig deeper, okay? You know, even when you think about the activities that you do, what are your values? Does it tie to those activities or tie to that organization you work for? And then experiences. And this helps us find out what we want to pursue. By doing and having more experiences, you can find out more of what you'd like or what you don't like. And when you put that together, you can define success for you. So what I encourage you to do is do something that matters to you, okay? What is that, the work or that career or that activity that you cannot not do? Like, what do you need to be doing? For me, it's always been working with adolescents and kids about trying to get them to the next goal for them. It's always been that. That matters to me. I cannot not do that. I'm a teacher at heart. So maybe I'm not teaching in the classroom anymore, but I'm still teaching. Look, I have a bunch of you here tonight and I'm trying to teach you something. That's just at my core. So what is that for you? So that's a mistake, is we wait too long to start looking into that. So as I say, as a freshman, between your activities and the classes you take, find out that thing, become a self-expert, okay? All right, number 7, your online identity does not play a part of admissions decisions, okay? So think about that. I mean, I know a lot of you are on social media right now, and you have to realize that it's becoming more of a game changer these days, okay? So here's just some quick stats. 27% of admission officers Google their prospective students, and they're looking out. 26% look up applicants on Facebook. I know it happens with jobs all the time now. And 35% found when checking up, they found something that negatively impacted an applicant's chances of getting in. And that's tripled from last year. So by the time you guys are probably applying for college, that number is going to keep going up. So as you get involved in social media, think about a few things, okay? How are you going to manage your web presence, your online presence? Okay, delete anything that's considered inappropriate. Be careful because it could come back to haunt you. You need to present your best authentic self online, who you really are, because when you start talking about things in your application down the road or in your essays and it's not backed up online, you're going to have some trouble, and the school's going to go, who is this person really? I'm not going to take a chance on them, and it could affect you. So I'm telling you now, because over the next 3 or 4 years, by the time, if I don't talk to you again until junior and senior year, it could be too late. So now is the time to start managing that presence, and it can be a positive thing. You can be branding yourself very positively. You know, from the name that you have on there, from your email. I work with a lot of athletes, and how we brand or how we brand them makes a really big, important thing. Here's an example of how some coaches use them, but they're always going and checking out their recruited athletes and checking them to find out would I want that kid to play for me? Okay. And admissions officers are going to start doing a lot more of that now. The recruiters do more of that now. The admissions officers are kind of starting to do that now. So again, it could affect your chances of getting in. Okay. Don't let a tweet affect your education. Okay. All right. Here's another one. Here's somebody at Penn State when they dropped another prosecutor. People are losing their potential scholarships. Okay. I see it happen all the time. Even professional athletes are losing opportunities or playing for organizations, and they're talking millions of dollars. So again, don't let it happen to you for admissions, okay? All right, here's the next one. I know the A through G requirements. Now, some of you might not know what they are yet because you're just starting and you maybe haven't had your freshman or sophomore night. Okay, but what that is kind of the minimum required to go to a UC school like UCLA, UC Irvine, Santa Barbara, or a Cal State school, Cal State Fullerton, Long Beach. There's 23 Cal States and stuff. So your schools do an excellent job of making sure that you know what classes you're taking, that they're A through G. So when you're ready to apply to college, if you choose that path, that you have all the required courses. So I put some of them here so you can see, for example, you're taking English for 4 years. That's going to make you UC or Cal State eligible. Now, for some schools, for example, taking math for 3 years, well, if you want to go to UC school, they want 4 years. They recommend 4 years. And a lot of colleges might recommend something more than the minimum. The other thing, too, if you're going to a competitive or selective school, eventually, they want more than the minimum. So again, you want to do more of the recommended. So a lot of students might take, in this district, English for 4 years and math for 4 years, okay? And for lab science, a lot of students will take physics, bio, and chemistry because they might want to apply to a UC school. So one of the things, again, the common mistake is, oh, I think I know A through G. Or, well, you might know it. You just make sure you double check year in and year out, and then you're getting all your requirements, okay? So again, take more than the minimum, and most schools that are very selective are going to want more. Now, again, the average admissions rate is over 65%, but for those schools that are, under 20% acceptance rate, they're going to want more. They're going to want the 4 years of math. They're going to want 3 to 4 years of foreign language. So think about that. Okay. All right. Next one. I will never get into a good college unless I take a ton of AP or honors classes. So you might see a lot of students at your school scrambling around or carrying, 4 backpacks because they're in 5 AP classes, and they do quite a bit. Now, again, some of them thinking, I've got to take all 5 AP courses this year so I can get into a good college. Again, if you do pretty good in school, you're going to go to a good college. Okay. It might not be that name brand school that you initially thought you would go to, but you have to take the classes that you can manage. Too many times I see students are taking classes that they can't even manage. They're doing it because they think they need to. Well, if you can't manage it or handle it, then what's the point? Now, there are a lot of great positives. You get a grade boost at your schools when you could do that. Now, colleges will count them differently. It shows rigor, which is a big thing for colleges, that you're challenging yourself. But again, it's a huge time commitment. It adds a lot of stress and anxiety to the student as well as the parent. Okay, and it can affect your performance not only in your classes but in other things you do, even outside your classes. Maybe there's no social time for you, and you're going insane because all you do is you have a book with you all the time. Again, you need to determine, and your family needs to determine, what can I manage? Okay, so if it's not working for you because you have to work as well as you have a sport and you have something else, well, maybe you can't take a ton of AP courses. That's okay because you're doing other things. So again, you have to make sure it fits. Okay, so what I would tell you is, what courses do you like that you do well in? So maybe you're taking only some that you do well in or you really like, because I know a lot of kids who take AP courses or honors courses that they don't even like. They think they have to do it. So choose the ones you really like and go down that path. Again, I would work with my counselor, my advisor at school, to talk about some of those classes and what they're recommending for you, and thinking about what you like. You don't have to take AP or honor. There are what we call our CCA classes, College and Career Advantage classes, where they're CTE classes, career technical education, where it might be something in engineering or it might be something in robotics and stuff. And a lot of those classes too are A through G, but they're not necessarily the AP class. It might be just something in your interest, and we talked about that. So that might be something you would do. Or maybe take classes at Saddleback that are more interesting to you than an AP history course that you don't really love. So again, something to think about is being able to manage your coursework and course load, but also stay in the path of finding classes that you really enjoy. Okay. So this is kind of a high school career, student's career, and when colleges and you apply and everything, they look at all these things. So yeah, they're looking at your class rigor, and they're looking at your profile, your rank, college credits, your test scores. There's so many things that they look at, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because, again, this is just an introduction to you guys. You'll hear this more, you'll see it more, and if you attend more events and everything, you'll learn it over time. But again, a lot of these things are just one piece. Your test score is just one piece of a whole bunch of things. So don't put too much energy in only one area. They look at a lot of things. Okay, so just because maybe you're not doing as well in one area doesn't mean you can't make it up in other areas. Okay, so again, that's kind of your um, high school career. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about before we start wrapping up is just life after school, and that's something that you should start doing now. What are your possibilities? What do you want to be doing after? And part of it is identifying your interests. What do you like? What do you dislike? The more experiences you have under your belt, you can figure some of those things out. So another thing that a lot of students don't take the time doing is to think about that. I know I didn't early on in high school. I was so in the moment and doing that, but it's good to look ahead. Think about, what's life going to look like when I go to college or after college, or if I don't even go to college, what does that look like if you want a certain trade or something, which is okay too. But you can start figuring that out now. Okay. So I wouldn't wait till the end of high school to think about your life after school. Okay. These are going to change too. A lot of times it changes for many people, but start identifying them. We have some college and career exploration tools that you can use. So everybody gets access to what we call Naviance. There are some aptitude surveys in there that you can take to find out some of your strengths and identify your interests. I would recommend doing that. You should be doing that in your CCP class. And these assessments will identify some of your strengths and then point you down a path of some potential careers that fit with those strengths. So those are great. One's called the Do What You Are survey. So I would take advantage of those and really look into those. Again, nothing is set in stone, okay? And talk to a lot of other people. So again, here are those surveys I talked about. There's Strengths Explorer and Do What You Are. And talk to other people who do what you might find interesting. That's going to help you figure out some of these things in your life after school. Too many times I have these juniors and seniors come in and they go, I want to be a doctor. And I go, okay, well, who did you talk to about that? Nobody. Or who did you ask about being a police officer? Nobody. Well, you should be doing that. You should be talking to people about that. So go to career days, career fairs, talk to people in your community. If you want to be a dentist, talk to your own dentist. If you want to be a doctor, talk to your doctor. Things like that. So the more you do that and more of you asking questions are going to help you figure out that life after school. And it doesn't have to be set. It's just about possibilities more than anything. Because you don't, some people know what they want exactly, and some it's about possibilities. What could you potentially do? That's going to help you make more informed and educated decisions down the road. Okay. So that's about life after school. So this is something new that I like to do is take a look at this list and pick one thing from this list. I got this from my college roommate, actually. He came up with this, and I really liked it. And he's in this business as well. Pick one thing from this list and where you see an immediate opportunity. Okay, look at all these things. You know, learn a lot about something that interests you, or you want to solve a problem maybe. Um, what is it? And then do it again, the same item or a different one. Keep repeating these things. And when you apply to college, you'll have this track record as a fixer, a leader, a teacher, a problem solver. These are the kinds of things colleges and admissions officers, employers, what they look for. You know, you'll be very successful if you do these things. Lead people wanting to waiting to be led. Fix something that's broken. It doesn't mean just fixing a bike, but you can fix a bike. You can fix somebody's heart. You can do a lot of different things. And this stuff, committing your time and energy is something that's important to you. If you do that, you'll be better off. You'll be able to say things in your college application or talk to people about your commitments and your passion. And that'll come out when you apply to college or beyond that, or when you talk to people. They go, wow, this is an impressive young man or woman. Look what they've done. And when you apply to college, these are the kinds of things that you need to be putting in your application. And too many times, some of my seniors, they don't even know what to write about because they never did any of these things. They just followed the status quo of, yeah, I joined 3 clubs that they weren't necessarily interested in, and they did these classes because they thought they had to, but they didn't really find themselves by doing things like this, like learning about something that interests you. If you're interested in robotics, then go take a class at a college or go to a camp about robotics. It doesn't have to be just in your school, okay? That's how you stand out to colleges, okay? So here's some recommendations for you guys, and then I'm going to open it up to questions at the end. So what can you do now, okay? And I mentioned this, getting great grades, because everything else falls into place if you're doing that. That's really so important. Be a high impact player inside and outside of the classroom. You know, impact player means like you participate in class. The teacher knows who you are. You make an impact on them. You do things outside of class that interest you. Find what you love to learn and learn more about it. You don't have to be all academic, like I take this class. No, well, what are you curious about? Go learn about that. Figure out what's best for you. Do what you can to stand out, like that standout thing that I did a second ago. Do your research. Explore you. What makes you tick? What are your passions? You can start doing that. And for my parents here especially, it's never too early to put money aside for college. Every little bit helps, okay? So you can do that. No, somebody's asking getting credit for foreign language that you learned growing up from your parents. No, not necessarily, but there is a you can take a CLEP test. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's how you can get some college credit. You just have to pass that test. So I would look it up through the College Board. You can take that. That's how you would do that. You can't get credits for taking a class that you didn't take in school, type of thing, but you can get college credits if that's what you're meaning, college credits. So yes, look at the CLEP tests, okay, CLEP, and go under CLEP College Board, because College Board are the ones who give those tests, okay? All right, great question. All right, so here's more specific. So those were general recommendations, some specific for my freshmen. One, set up a meeting with your AA, your academic advisor. You should always meet with them. And Futurology. So January through May, you can meet with us if you're trying to figure some things out, or you don't know where to start, or you want to make sure you check in with your timeline. Am I on the right track? But again, the biggest thing this year, get good grades, set yourself up, start looking at some interests. But if you feel like you want to come in and meet with us, please do. In January, you'll be able to kind of meet with myself or one of my counselors. Academics, take a class or two at Saddleback, take a CCA course. Those are things, I mentioned the CLEP exam to somebody. These are things down the road you should be thinking about. And when you take your PSAT, you'll be able to link your College Board account and your Khan Academy account, so you can get extra practice. But as a freshman, you shouldn't even be doing some test prep stuff now. You don't need to, okay? We have some checklists, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, on our website. So if you actually go to CUSD-Futureology.org over here, college readiness checklist, you can pull down a freshman checklist of things you should be thinking about and doing about. Some of the things I talked about tonight, and it just gives you a timeline. So I would recommend doing that if you have the time or inclination. Where to take a practice ACT, just got this question in. You can download one from our website at futurology.org if you look under the college admissions test, but you shouldn't be doing it now. If you're a freshman, now is not the time. You should wait till spring of your sophomore year, okay? So now is not the time. And there might be newer tests available, so we'll probably have a different test then, so don't do it now, okay? You can wait on that. I know everybody's like, oh, I want to start taking tests. Don't. It'll come in time. Let it come to you. What I call that, don't do premature testing. Don't start earlier than you need to. You don't need to be prepping for the SAT now. It's way too early. Okay. All right, here's some of the test dates so you know, but we don't really need to look at that because you won't be doing that for a while. So my freshmen, here you are. You're taking the PSAT in October, and you won't do any of these tests. Those are for, so this is the only thing, testing timelines, that my freshmen you will do. Download your checklist so you kind of know what you should do sophomore and junior year, okay? So with that said, I know I went through a lot of things fast, but again, in an hour, it's hard to cover everything. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of some things you should be thinking about over the next year. Also give you a sense of a timeline, what to do, what not to do, some mistakes a lot of freshmen make. So with that said, here's my email right here. If you have something and you think about it and you go, I forgot to ask this. This is my email, ajrusamano@capousd.org, okay? But questions right now, let me field some questions from you. And again, that's a great way to learn, is just keep asking you the questions that you have and talking to your advisors, your teachers, your counselors, our counselors at Futurology. And then the one thing I want to make sure is I would love for you guys to either start following us on social media at CUSD Futurology. I have a Instagram account, a Twitter account, and a Facebook account. And what I typically do is I highlight some colleges, we do some fun facts, I do some testing tips. So if you actually get on it now, over the next few years, you're going to get a lot of great information, and hopefully that's going to help keep you on track and keep you engaged in this process of college and career, and help you navigate. So please definitely get on there and start following me. And I don't know if somebody just did, but it looked like my phone, somebody just did it the minute I said it. So if you did, fantastic. What's the best way, I've got a question. What's the best way to present logged community service volunteer hours? What's the best way? Well, right now as a freshman, you just need to track it either in a spreadsheet or in a Word document. And when you ultimately apply, they're going to ask you for that. You know what they'll probably do, again, they'll be asking you how many hours a week. So right now I would just keep it like in some type of spreadsheet. I wouldn't worry about being so exact, because they're not going to exactly, on the week of this week, I worked 42.1 hours. No, they're not going to ask you that. What they typically ask you on an application is, what years did you do it? 9, 10, 11, 12, or 9 and 10, or 10 and 11? Roughly how many hours a week do you do that thing? Okay, and then you'll write something about it and what you did in that. So it's not something, unless you're actually trying to get a badge, or you're doing Boy Scouts, or you're doing something at your school that you need the log service hours. Um, that's something different. So then you might want to check with that advisor at the school of that organization, or just keep it in a spreadsheet of some sort. Or you might find some app that can do that for you. Somebody asked, what do you think about junior college like Saddleback? Save money, stay close to home, does it guarantee to get it? Awesome. I think choosing going to a junior college route is fantastic. Um, our college fair, guys, is Monday, October 30th at 6 p.m. at Capo Valley High School. I'd encourage you all to go. You should have gotten information. You'll get some more information about it. We'll have Saddleback there. We'll have some other junior colleges. We'll have a lot of four-year colleges, some trade schools. Go. But I think junior colleges are fantastic. It does save money. You are close to home. It doesn't guarantee you get into a Cal State or UC. You have to do what's expected of you to transfer in. But they do, if you do those things, there's some special programs like a tag program at the UC schools. If you do those things, you're going to get into a UC school, guaranteed. So there are some guaranteed programs. But just because you go there doesn't guarantee. You have to do the right things at the junior college. But again, it's an option, and I don't recommend it for everybody. It depends on what your goals and what you're trying to do. So that's something over time to discuss when you start creating a list, and what your interest activities are, what your goal at the end is. And so I think that comes over time, but it is a great path, and a path that a lot of students make. Sometimes they make it by default because they don't do the right things in high school, so they end up going there. I don't like that path. I'd rather you choose to go to Saddleback because it works for you and what you want to do. Okay. Um, should I wait to take the ACT practice test as a freshman? Yes. I'm going to say it again. Do not take the practice ACT as a freshman. At least the one that we have on our website. Now, some of your schools might have the pre-ACT at your school, and it's part of being part of that school. That might be okay, because that would be, applicable for being a freshman. That's the one through the ACT. Don't do a practice ACT that you come in on a Saturday and it's done through another prep company. You don't need to do that. But the pre-ACT, again, you need to make sure you know your terminology of these different tests. So I wouldn't take that practice test for the ACT. But if it's the pre-ACT at your school, because one or two of your schools do that, then maybe yes. That's like the PSAT. So that would be okay. Does playing music on the street and earning money count for anything? Yeah, you're making money. Nice job. No, yes, it does. Again, it could be a hobby, but that could be your passion. I think that's fantastic. If you, again, what's your activity? Well, that's what you do. How many hours a week you do it? I do it this many weeks. It helps me pay for my family or something. Fantastic. That's going to be something that you're probably going to write about in your essay or something like that. And it'll count as an activity. Again, it can be a hobby, and it can be more than that. It sounds like it's more than a hobby for you. It's even maybe a business. Who knows? So yes, I applaud that. And it could have a lot of value as you go forward. Should you meet your academic advisor at school now? Well, are they too busy now? Well, it depends on what you want to go and talk to them about. So I don't know. I don't know why you would want to go to see them. If it's about your classes, or you're having some issue with a class, or you're thinking about planning ahead, then maybe. But if it's just to go meet them, then I don't know. So it really depends on what you need to go meet them for. Not everybody needs to go meet their advisor now. If they kind of on track and they know what they're doing, they have their classes set, they're doing well, they're happy. So again, it really depends. I wouldn't just schedule the appointment just to schedule an appointment. Where can you find the recording of this for my parents and future review? I will show you actually right now. Why don't let me show you guys. I'm going to show you our website, and you can see the recording. Okay, so let's try this. I'm going to share. There we go. Share my screen again. All right, so this last question, where can you take your parents to where the recordings are? So our website is, if you look here, CUSD-Futureology.org, www. You come here, and if you haven't seen our before, if you go, here's our homepage. This is how we can help. Here's our hours, where we're located. This is our scope of service, the kinds of things that we do. On the second tab is appointments and events. This is where all our events are to the right and how you schedule one-on-one appointments. Like I said, for my sophomores for my freshmen, we won't have appointments available to you because we're dealing with a lot of juniors and seniors right now, but not till January, but you would schedule it here. And then the recordings are under the resource locker. You can see all our recordings from all the webinars we've done. The PSAT Now What I Did Last Week, or the Parent Q&A, have your parents watch that. So you go here. I put them all up here, okay? So go there. Oh, thank you, McKenna, for following me. Appreciate it. That was awesome. All right, so last minute questions. I'm gonna wrap up. And I appreciate everybody's time, and hopefully we'll see you at another event. Go out and conquer this world and make some impact. If you see me at your school, please say hi. And I feel very great about everybody who attended tonight, because you're going to be one step ahead of the rest of everybody, and you took this time. For those that are parents aren't here, please share them. The recording, I will send a follow-up with the recording, but that's where you can go. It's going to be in the resource locker, and you can have that probably by Friday. I'll have it up there. Okay. No, Christine, no, you can't even make an appointment now. You'll make your appointment, it'll be open around December. So don't make your appointments for the one-on-one right now. I would wait till probably the new year. So when January hits, I would jump online and do that. So I would wait till January, okay? So for now, if you feel like you need to see somebody, come to one of our events, come to the college fair, talk to us there, or go see your academic advisor. But like I said, the biggest thing now, right now, for my freshmen, just go in and find what you like, do well in school, find an activity, get acquainted with everything. That's the most important. So there's no really college and career planning besides that type of stuff right now. You're not missing out like, oh, I didn't do test prep. That's not a big deal right now. Okay. All right. Everybody, some people are kind of waiting away. So thank you again. I'm going to stop the recording now. So have a good night, everybody. I'll stay here for a few minutes after too. All right.